books are such a powerful thing. Whether it's nonfiction or fiction, it's a way of seeing into the universe that you wouldn't have seen before. So it's borrowing somebody else's life and putting that into a lens that you can absorb and live vicariously. And certainly that's what fiction does. It allows us to have all these life experiences without any of the side effects or the real dramas with it. It's like, oh, I'll take all the excitement and insights without having to actually physically do it.
You are now listening to the podcast where authors inspire listeners to become authors, the Going North Podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer, best-selling author, and book enthusiast, Dom Brightman. And you're going to be listening to a different author that will inspire you to join the business of immortality, known as authorship. Now let the fun begin. Today's episode is sponsored by both books, Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself, and the follow-up bestseller, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. Head over to Amazon.com, pick up both books. They are available in a trifecta of paperback, audio, and ebook. Cop all three of both and be on the lookout for another book from yours truly to help podcasters succeed. Now let's get on with today's episode. And today on the highlight reel, builder for authors known as GMP, the Great, Glorious, and Glamorous, it's the Going North Podcast. And we got another super special, awesome human for you today, courtesy of one of the best websites on planet Earth right now, known as podmatch.com, the wonderful site where podcast guests get to connect with podcasts. So since they're cool, they're freaking in. And today's guest is cooler than 2 cucumbers, y'all. That's right, indeed. Cooler than 2 cucumbers, indeed, because we got another Aussie in a wonderful place, y'all. That's right, indeed. She's all the way from Australia. That's right, indeed. At the time of this recording, she's coming from the future. That's right, indeed. She says the future looks bright. That's right, indeed. So avoid the wonderful skunk dressed up as a brownie, y'all. That's right, indeed. Avoid it like the plague, indeed. Because she is a wonderful leadership expert, y'all. That's right, indeed. As well as an award-winning bookcaster. You heard that right, folks. An award-winning bookcaster. Because she not only puts pen to paper, she knows how to rock the mic as a podcast host as well. And she's also a wonderful adventurous, and she's also a wife. So someone snagged her off for the market because of her fabulosity. So let's give it up for the zany and radiant, the one and only Zoë Routh. How you doing today, Zoe?
Oh, Dom, I'm much better for you and for your introduction. Yeah. Oh, I should also clarify also, I'm a Canadian living down under. So if people are expecting a strong Aussie accent, it ain't there. There's a little bit of a twang from time to time, but I'm originally Canadian.
Come on, Australia, work on your brainwashing. Come on. Darn.
I can share a few expressions. Fair dinkum. I can say that in a sentence, which is good, which means really. It's like saying fair dinkum. It's like genuine, like that's for real. So there you go. There's a little bit of Aussieism for you.
Yeah, they need to work on the brainwashing. Yeah. They need to do a better job. If it's USA, we'd have you fully brainwashed by now. That's right, indeed. Let me stop. I'll just mess with you. But my goodness, say it about the wonderful brainwashing, even though depending on who you are, that's really horrible. It's about the wonderful Zoe herself. So my goodness, since all introductions aren't allowed to be 75,000 days, 0.500 years long, mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about you to make you the Zoe that you are today, since your first time here on Going North?
It is my first time on Going North, and it's a hilarious delight so far. Oh dear. Well, like I said, I came from Canada, but I was actually born in England. And my two loves have always been the wilderness. I led canoe trips in Canada, and people was my other passion. And I've managed to combine those two for all of my professional life. And that led me from Canada leading canoe trips to Australia, woohoo, down under leading programs with Outward Bound, which is personal and leadership development in the outdoors. And there's Outward Bound schools in the US, Canada, and around the world. And started doing lots of leadership work in another organization as well. Set up my own business in 2002, which is a long time ago now. And I've always loved writing. always loved it and always wrote a blog ever since I went into business and started cranking out books in 2015, leadership books, and my first novel last year. That's some of the recipe ingredients.
There we go. So cinnamon spice and everything nice. That's right indeed. With a scone on the side, I imagine.
Yeah, we'll go with scones. Or I think the Aussies call them scones. They call things a little bit differently here, and I sometimes forget which word is which. Is it a Canadian, North American word, or is it an Aussie word? But I know they don't call hats toques like they do in Canada. They're beanies. So you got to put a beanie on if it's going to be cold.
Ah, all right. So if you stack them together, you have a bean stack then.
Yep. Yep.
That's right indeed. Well, congrats on your wonderful business making it to the USA drinking age, 21 years young and still growing.
That's right. I'm so fresh. I got cellular rejuvenation happening. I just reset the button every year to 21.
Ah, there you go indeed. There you go indeed. So did you always have the aspirations to be a wonderful entrepreneur, especially as a teenage girl, probably, or was it you just wanted to go the Steve Irwin route, maybe, and just really go
Ah,
outdoors and adventure the whole world and be with animals and whatnot?
I reckon it was more Steve Irwin. I don't think I did not have a hankering to be an entrepreneur at all. And it was only when I hired a coach for myself in 2000 and experienced the life-changing, world-changing paradigm of working with a professional coach that I realized this is a really excellent personal development modality, leadership development modality. And I decided then that I wanted to do that kind of work. That was kind of the next iteration of my people development work, was to become an executive coach. And then the second thought after that is, oh, I have to learn how to run a business, set up a business, run a business. And that was the next hard part. Like working with people one-on-one was always came easy for me because I'd worked with people all my life so far. But the business side, woo, that was a massive learning curve. Being an outdoorsy chick, I had to learn a few things about business, like actually how to dress for business. I had to hire someone to teach me how to dress like a business person and how to put on makeup. I did not learn these life skills until I was in later adult life, sort of mid 20s at this point. And so that was like the technical, like the superficial aspects of running a business. And then I also had to change my entire belief set around money, which was another interesting challenge. Like up to that date, I'd been very much like, businesses are evil. Entrepreneurs just want to squeeze money out of other humans, and it's all bad. And the good and righteous people are people like me who work in not-for-profits. And so I had very regimented views about money and business. And I realized if I was going to be of service, running my own business as an entrepreneur, that had to change. I couldn't go into business and think all business people were jerks, because that would make me a jerk and probably wouldn't serve the business exchange with the people I wanted to work with. So I did some really extensive work on reprogramming my belief set, doing my own personal brainwashing for good, not evil, around, yeah, hopefully it's for good, around what it means to be in business and to be part of a commercial enterprise. And so that took some time to do, actually. And I think as an entrepreneur, I'm still working on that, like I think a lot of business people I work with, entrepreneurs I work with, always challenge, like, how much am I worth? How much is this worth? How much is my service worth? Is it offering value? And a lot of time people undervalue who they are, what they do, and what they have to offer. And I think, yeah, that's a massive challenge for people for sure. And I see it show up also in the CEOs that I work with in terms of their wealth or poverty mentality and how they approach business decisions and programs and risk taking based on those fundamental beliefs. And it's an interesting part of development and leadership development to look inwardly about what is the programming, the belief systems that you've got, and how is that either supporting you or going against you in terms of your work. So yeah, I did some of that work early on. And didn't have it inbred in me as a aspiring entrepreneur. And I think I was an unwilling entrepreneur until I embraced it as a means to an end. And the end was in being in service to others and creating better leaders.
Yeah, so I'm talking about indeed better leaders and not butter leaders. That's what I'm talking about indeed. That's right, indeed. It's a good old reprogramming. That's right, indeed. Getting you one of them good old coaches in your life where it's like, oh, I think I could do that too. That's right, indeed. I won't even need a whistle.
Just a whip. Whistles and whips. That's a good way to coach.
There you go. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Just let it whip, especially when there's a miracle involved. Yeah, I guess Miracle Whip's only a US thing.
Oh, Miracle Whip. Oh, right. Okay. I thought there was some weird religious analogy that I had no idea about. Miracle Whip, like the squeezy stuff that comes out of a bottle goes. Psh. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you said whip.
Coaching
I
with
added the
Miracle Whip.
miracle in front of it.
Yep. Okay, that could work.
Ah, yes, indeed. All the puns are intended indeed. So, my goodness, so having to change all of those beliefs and going through that process, like, my goodness, what you consider as something major that really pops in your mind as something that you really had to change and unlearn that actually helped you to be the success that you are today out of all those things you had to change?
Oh. Well, the belief systems was a fundamental piece, but that didn't cure the lack of a good business strategy. So I could have really great beliefs and not have a great business strategy. And so I floundered in my business for a couple of years. So I started it part-time when I was working at Outward Bound, and then launched full-time and went crashed and burned. I also crashed and burned because I got cancer that year as well. So that
Ouch.
wasn't so helpful, trying to launch a business full-time and getting sick. So that kind of put a little bit of a spanner in the wheel, spanner in the works, as they say down here. So I pressed pause, went back to Outward Bound, worked there for a year and trying to got my health back on track, and had another go at running my business, and still did not have a great business model or strategy. And I had 3 years of suffering and not getting it right. So I took a job at a place called Australian Rural Leadership Foundation, which I didn't want to do. I felt like a failure at that point. I'm like, I failed. I'm not a failed entrepreneur. I didn't get this. And I went reluctantly into that work to pay the bills. And it ended up being an awesome experience. I learned a lot about myself and about leadership and boosted my skills significantly. I kept going in my business on the side. And after 5 years of that, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm ready. I'm going to make my business come to life and really make a go of it. And then I took the sensible step of joining a community called Thought Leaders, which had two things going for it. One was a community of like-minded individuals bent on the same outcome of making their individual leadership or consulting practice a commercial success. So everybody was doing the same sort of work, similar work, different topics. You know, there was productivity experts or self-empowerment experts or leadership experts like me, whatever. Everybody had their own specialty, but we were all wanting to make a living from our thinking, from our intellectual property and services to clients. So the community was one aspect of that. And the second piece that was really, really helpful was the methodology. And thought leadership is a deliberate practice, a deliberate model developed by Matt Church, who is the founder of Thought Leaders Business School here in Australia. And it was all about just a very simple business practice. And it has as its central premise the cluster strategy. And the cluster strategy is, what is your message? Who's your market? And what's your mode of delivery? And you play with those three things till you hit a market that wants what you have to offer in the format they deliver. So say, for example, I wrote a book called People Stuff. So the topic is people stuff. And the market is CEOs in a number of different small to medium enterprises. And the mode, I had a number of different modes for that. One is one-on-one coaching, some leadership training, as well as facilitation around culture and strategy. So that's the whole business plan. You have a handful of these clusters working for you in your practice, and all of a sudden you can make some decent money. The idea behind a cluster is that you make $10,000 a month on that particular cluster, and then you keep adding clusters until you're making as much as you want, really. And the aspirational top level as a benchmark was 60K a month. So once you hit that, that's black belt. And Matt has a white belt to black belt ranking system, depending on how much money you're making a month based on this. So that experience, and I joined Thought Leaders Business School in 2015, was a massive catapult to my success as a business person. And one of the key deliverables as a student in there is you had to write a book. And I'm like, okay.
Ooh.
I was right. It's part of, I'm a good student. I will follow the rules. And I produced my first book in the first 6 months of being in that program as part of a practice of bringing intellectual property of service into the world. So that was Composure, my first book. And I had coaching programs off the back of that and some speaking as well. So I think, yeah, that was a pretty critical, important piece. And I still think being part of a community of like-minded folks is so important, especially in doing this kind of entrepreneurial journey which is a small practice, like one or two people, as opposed to developing a massive business, which is a completely different story and approach, business approach, is having those people that you can ring up and say, hey, how are you going with this? Like, and I've been doing that this year because the market has fallen off here in Australia with the looming recession and rise of interest rates. And it's like, just wanted to soundboard, like, what are you experiencing? Are things a little bit weird right now? And normalizing some of that, or even to the people who are experiencing good outcomes. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you finding? And what are the trends that are happening in the different marketplaces? So having like-minded people to join you on the journey, I think, is so helpful. And then having a proven business methodology was the other useful thing. And then the third secret ingredient, which I brought to the table, was good old elbow grease. Just really working my butt off to follow the system and to develop my intellectual property and to connect with people who might be interested in what I have to offer. So yeah, it's been epic and really rewarding in the end. Didn't know it at the time, because it was so hard. Some days were harder than others and exhausting. But then you get the other side of all that work and it's, yeah, baby, it's all good.
All good indeed. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Powerful program right there, and getting the book done in 6 months too. That's freaking awesome indeed. So my goodness. So I guess the group provided accountability along with everything else. Is that what helped you to get that first book done so quickly?
Well, it's interesting. It's like they had a gamified accountability system, which I think is really useful. They had a thing called in the back end of their website that everybody could log into, and it's called your personal dashboard, and you'd record specific key activities. And the key activities were doing what they call pink sheets, which is developing your intellectual property. So it's a form that you complete around your idea. So number of pink sheets that you did, number of sales calls that you made, and the other activity was the actual sales. So you track these activities as a way of nudging forward. So that was really good because it's great to record sales. That's the outcome. But if you weren't doing any sales calls, chances are your sales weren't that good. So it's like, okay, got to do this. And what stops you from doing good sales calls is not having anything to sell. So you got to do the thinking. So you tracked your think, sell, and deliver, as Matt calls it. So you're thinking, your IP development, you're selling, how many people you're reaching out to, and the delivering, how much work you're actually delivering, and then how much you're selling. So that was the accountability piece. The book side of things, less so. There was less of an accountability structure for that. And at the time, I was like, well, I know that my credibility will go through the roof when I have a published book. And it serves double function because I find that when you write, your thinking develops. You have to do some research around your particular topic to bolster your ideas, deepen and enrichen your ideas. So writing became a way of thinking as well. So I was highly motivated myself to produce a book, and we would gather once a quarter. And the other sort of, this is like a peer pressure accountability piece, is that those who had actually published a book in that quarter got to go up to the front of the room and celebrate with, flashing their books in front of everybody and get applauded and stuff. I'm like, I like the gold star applause. I'm like, I want to be the person up there with my book next time. So that piece of public approval was the motivator there. And we also had mentors along the way as well. So you got to talk to your mentor once a month, and they'd check in with your think, sell, deliver. And the thinking part, the book writing is part of that as well. So I had questions for my mentors about how do I structure the book, and what do I, all that kind of stuff that comes into producing a book that's useful.
There you go. Useful indeed. And I guess it was so fun because you produced, what was it, 6 more after that, including a wonderful novel?
I have 4 leadership books and 1 near future sci-fi novel that came out last November. Here it is, The Olympus Project. Big fat one. It's a really fat book. It's 400 pages. I'll show you. There you go. 400 pages.
Nice and thick.
And I'm about to publish my 5th book, which is a shorter book. It's more of a novella, 200 pages, called Terra Blanca, which is a prequel to the Olympus Project. And just about to finish the draft of the sequel. So look at the prequel and the sequel coming out in short order. So that would make, how many books is that? 7 books all up once I get the sequel done. Yeah, there's more to come, though. I just love writing. And there's always more to say. And books are such a powerful thing. Whether it's nonfiction or fiction, it's a way of seeing into the universe that you wouldn't have seen before. So it's borrowing somebody else's life and putting that into a lens that you can absorb and live vicariously. And certainly that's what fiction does. It allows us to have all these life experiences without any of the side effects or the real dramas with it. It's like, oh, I'll take all the excitement and insights without having to actually physically do it. So it's a shortcut to life experience. I love how fiction does that. And the payoff for nonfiction is that you have all this wisdom from another human, or humans, if it's co-authoring, distilled into practical application. That's the good books, I should say. So the return on investment of time and money and energy to buy and read a book is incredible. Like, it would take, well, for me, the first book took me 6 months. People's stuff took a bit longer to write, but some authors spend years writing their books and all distilling their 20 years worth of experience into something. You read it in a few hours. So a few hours invested at $20 invested in a book, and you get 20 years of experience. Wow. That is such an unequal exchange that is heavily weighted to the reader. So yeah, why not gobble up as many books as you can, and you get all those lives distilled into your own experience and all that wisdom that you can glean as a result. It's such an amazing way to give yourself a competitive advantage in the marketplace as a human and as a professional. So I'm a big fan. Books, like them.
Yeah, indeed. So my goodness, how was it like making the switch from nonfiction to fiction, especially sci-fi?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. So I started writing the novel by just banging out a couple of scenes that had been rattling around my brain, in some cases for years. I just had this scene in my head. I'm like, I just have to put this down on paper now or on the computer screen. So I wrote a couple of these scenes, and then the story started to evolve. And I thought, you know what? There's probably a structure to a novel. So I started reading about story structure and novel writing. I'm like, oh my goodness, there is a lot more than I had thought about. So I started doing it in parallel, writing the story as well as reading about novel writing and educating myself on that. And then I realized that there's a whole different world of book marketing, and it's a completely different platform if you want to go into being an author full time, which is my long-term aspiration, is to dial up more writing and dial down less of the people leadership stuff in the end, like sort of when I'm in my 60s kind of thing. So there was a lot to learn in terms of writing fiction that is different to nonfiction. It's more complex. I find plotting is one of my challenges. Other people find plotting easy. I find plotting a little bit more challenging. I find description and writing easier than some others. So that's sort of my strength and weaknesses in crafting a story. Essentially, how I'd compare the two, I think writing fiction is so much more fun. Like, wow, writing all these dramatic scenes was awesome. Like, it was just so engrossing to be able to pull that off. And I find the story carries me away with it. And the characters, I start to get invested in them and what happens to them and how they grow and develop or don't. So it's more of, it's quite energizing. I haven't written a nonfiction book since 2000. So that's 3 years ago now. Probably getting the taste for that again. Maybe in 2024, I'll write another nonfiction book. At the moment, I'm loving the fiction. So fiction is more fun for me. Nonfiction, having written 4 books now in nonfiction, I understand the formula and the strategy for it. So it's less of a challenge. And I'm someone who likes learning. Like, learning is one of my key values. It's one of my key strengths. So if I'm not learning, then I lose a bit of appetite for it. So in writing another nonfiction book, there's got to be something I'm learning and doing it. Maybe not in the writing side of it, maybe in the research side of it, or maybe in the marketing side of it. Because I never took marketing my nonfiction books very seriously, because I always was just using them to promote the other pieces of my business, which was speaking, coaching, training, facilitation. And so they were more important in that as a support to my business enterprise, as opposed to making money in and of themselves. Fiction's different. Like if you want to write fiction, it's you better start hustling on the marketing side, because there's not a lot off the back end of a fiction book in terms of selling your leadership services. Though, having said that, the Olympus Project and all the sequels and prequels has got really strong leadership themes in it. So it supports my work in that way, but not in a direct way like People Stuff, my fourth book, does, which is here's the book and here's the training program based on this. You can take the Olympus Project and there is not a training program that comes off the back of it. I had thought about designing a board game, but went off that. I'm like, no, I'm having more fun writing the story than writing anything to support it as collateral for my business. So that's the sort of the biggest differences I found in fiction and nonfiction, is the fun factor. And well, I guess Stephen Kotler, I studied under him. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He runs the Flow Research Collective, and he writes both fiction and nonfiction. I asked him, what's the difference between fiction and nonfiction? And his response to that was, nonfiction is advancing an idea and fiction is advancing a life. I'm like, that's a good distinction. So what dose do you want to take? You want to advance an idea or advance a life? So that's his summary about it. And I think that's a pretty good summary, actually. Yeah.
There you go. Powerful. Definitely powerful indeed. Because hey, like both are good. Definitely both are good. But hey, life. Advance that, baby. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Because hey, there's still probably some back end stuff from Olympus. It's like, hey, maybe your own Olympus project. That's right indeed. Your own mountain indeed. Even though it may not be an exact mountain. Metaphorically, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the word Olympus has got so much connotation from Greek mythology, etc. And in fact, in terms of metaphor turn reality, on Mars, because I'm a sci-fi interest, there is Olympus Mons on Mars, which is 3 times as big as Everest, which is wow, huge. So, at some point in the Gaia Enterprises world, which forms the Olympus Project and its prequel and sequels, they're going to end up on Mars. And I can't wait to write that book. That's really cool. That's a fun little enterprise. I hope I live long enough to actually see humans on planet Mars. Like Elon Musk is trying his darndest to get there. He promised by 2024. I think he's going to miss that deadline, but hopefully he makes it before either he dies or I die. I'd like to see that experience of humans on the red planet. That would be so freaking awesome. In the meantime, there's lots of really great fiction books to read about making it to Mars, living on Mars and the moon. So that's really fun.
So I'm talking about indeed. So what'd you learn about yourself through the process of finally getting the Olympus project done and now being able to write a sequel and a prequel to it?
What did I learn about myself? I actually learned that, well, I kind of knew it, but didn't really experience it, that writing is very solitary. Like, and you have to have a vision to carry you through the messy middle, as Joanna Penn calls it, of writing a book, because you're in the middle and it's a long way from being finished. And, without any feedback from anybody at that point, it's like, is this any good? Is this going anywhere? Will anybody read this? Will anybody like it? Will people hate it? So that nagging, self-doubting voice, which appeared for me anyway in all of my nonfiction books, less so by the fourth one, but it was still there. That same sort of like, oh, is this any good kind of question. So that kind of came out again. And so realizing that writing is such a solitary thing, and also how much I enjoy the balance of doing the people work alongside it. So I think I need to have a bit of that, solitary writing time and people engagement, where I'm talking to clients, working with clients, and doing team facilitation, team strategy is what fills my cup. So that's one of the things that I've cemented or acknowledged through the writing process of writing the Olympus Project. What else did I learn about myself? Probably how much I love to learn. And I rediscovered how much the written word is so powerful and how writing is such a delight. If you craft a beautiful sentence with a beautiful metaphor and it just comes off and it's delicious. Yeah, I live for those moments where you write something and it's like, oh, and sometimes you can read somebody else's work and just go, oh, that was just perfect analogy or perfect crafting of a sentence or a beautiful scene. And those moments are special. And I think I crave that as I'm reading other people's work. It's like, oh, just give me a nice sentence, for goodness sake. So that's what I look for in readers. And because I read voraciously, then I get to read a lot of stuff that isn't that. And yet the story is good. So I love the language piece as well as the story piece. It's good to find out what you like, actually. I didn't really know until I started really zeroing in on what kinds of literature is out there and how to write into different genres. I didn't even know that stuff. Yeah, that's typical of me. Like, I'll be an entrepreneur, know nothing about it. I'll be a writer and a novelist, don't know anything about it. Just figure it out as I go along. Yeah. So sometimes that's good because I've got great starter energy, and sometimes it's bad because you got to build a spaceship as you're launching it, kind of thing. And that's can be a little bit challenging.
So that means you're taking us to Venus after really Elon Musk gets to Mars. I hear you. Let me stop.
I don't know how far we're going to go in the Gaia universe. Definitely to Mars. They're on the moon in the sequel, so I'm writing about that right now, which is really fun. So yeah, moon and Mars, definitely. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Well, hopefully Mars doesn't moon us once we get there. Let me stop.
Too far away to moon us.
Ah, well, that's good to know. So you won't even be able to see it. You'll love to see it. That's right, indeed. So the good news is, even though you got great starter energy, you got some great finishing energy too, because you're able to launch a podcast and keep it up and running. So, what are the top 3 things you learned from starting and running it and keeping it going?
Wow. So the podcast launched the same way my books and my business did. I'll start a podcast. No idea what I'm doing. So I did that, and I started a podcast in conjunction with running an event. So I wanted to have very specific leaders come and speak and be part of this particular event. I said, one of the things I can't pay you, I would love to support you. I want to interview you on my podcast, which hasn't launched yet, but will, about your experience in leadership. So I started off by interviewing leaders about their involvement in community. And that was the starting point of the podcast. And so I posted that on to SoundCloud, I think it was my first platform, and then sporadically uploaded stuff after that. And it took about a year or so before I went, I should probably have more of a plan with this thing, because I'm spending some time on it and I think there's value in it. So in the last couple of years, I've gotten more structured in terms of themes that I run in the podcast quarterly. I definitely have help rolling it out. So I have a great sound editor who does all of the sound mastering. And I have another colleague who rolls it out to social media. So she drafts the show notes and does all the imagery and publishes it that way. So there's 3 of us running the podcast, if you like. I do the sourcing of the talent and interviewing of the talent, and that's about it. I used to do it all myself, and oh my goodness, each episode would take so darn long. Like, do an interview for an hour and then take another hour and a half to write the show notes, and then at least another hour and a half to do all the other stuff. And I was like, I'm not making any money on the podcast. Like, it's costing me a lot of time. So I decided to change that equation to get my time back, where I can spend my time more effectively to make money in terms of my business. And the podcast is definitely a marketing arm. So what did I learn? It's helpful to have a structure with your podcast. It's really important to have an audience in mind so that I'm consistently offering content that meets audience expectations. So that has been part of the ecosystem. The other thing I learned is that it's really hard to measure the impact of a podcast, because the way it's structured, you don't necessarily have access to those listeners unless you can somehow bait them to come onto your newsletter list, which I find it doesn't happen that often. And it's really hard to get reliable statistics on listenership, etc. So it's really hard to quantify the impact of it, except for when people say, I love your podcast, I listen to the show and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I had no idea you were listening because no one texts you or emails you or post anything on social media. So I think the integration of podcasting into other social media things is not that easy. Like, it should be easy, but it's just an extra step that people don't generally do. So unless you're a big name like Tim Ferriss say, for example, it's really hard to get visibility with your show. So for me, it's all about who is my audience? Am I showing up consistently with value for them that's going to be useful in their leadership journey? Because that's my audience. Then that's really helpful. And I was thinking today or yesterday, I did an amazing interview, really energized by the person who was on the show. And I thought, yes, after I think we're up to 350 episodes shortly, I'm offering a good body of work here that is useful to leaders, and it's inspiration that can help lift people up as they go through their own particular journey. And they may not get something that's relevant to them in each episode, as long as there's something that happens for them, and they get something at the right time that helps them make a better decision or get a huge insight or do something differently that adds benefit to their life and leadership, then that is something that's useful and productive moving forward. So if you're giving advice to anybody thinking about books, podcasts, and business, podcasting is like any other marketing avenue. You've just got to be consistent and focused with it, and maybe try and develop some sort of measure for it. And maybe it's only the anecdotal evidence is all that you got, then track that, because you'll need it. Because otherwise you feel like you're talking into a vacuum all the time. You know, put all these shows out and nobody gives you any feedback. It's like, and then occasionally you get the, oh, I love that episode about blah. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, yeah, that's great. And get the little energizing boost afterwards. A lot of work is like that, I think. Well, it's the same with books, really. You put a book out there and people buy it, you don't see them, you don't hear from them, and you just hope that it's doing something good out there in the world. They get something useful and or energizing from it. And then you have these little miracle moments when people actually do write you or post about it. And it's like, oh my God, it was worth it. So there's a huge outlay of optimism that comes with your work you put out into the world. And you've got to back yourself in some ways and just wish it well on its journey, because once it leaves you, it's out there for the world to make use of. And you have no control over that, which is a gift, I think. And that's what you need to be focused on. What is my gift to the world? And I give it willingly into the world so that it may help others.
Ooh, that's right indeed. Helping others indeed. That's right indeed. Hitting that good old 350. Soon to be a 360. The whole spin action. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. It's a good lessons too, because yeah, definitely can be uphill indeed. And it's like, yeah, good old marketing arm indeed. It's like one of these arms is marketing, it waves at you. The other one is sales, it grabs you. That's right indeed. Even though marketing's kind of the grabber, it's supposed to magnetize you. That's right indeed. And you've been making sure you have a giant magnet for super special awesome humans, which is freaking awesome indeed. So my goodness, so since you've been on so many interviews on both sides of the microphone, is there a question that you wish folks would ask you more often when you're on the guest side of the game?
Oh, I don't think there's one question that I like, oh, I wish someone would ask me that, because I just sort of show up with whatever the host wants to find out about. So no, I don't think I haven't been asked a particular thing. I'm actually happy to be a guest on anybody's show and grateful to be a guest. So I don't actually have one. Is that bad? Do other people have questions that they wish they were asked all the time? I don't know.
Yeah, say a good 80% of folks have a question usually. So you're in the top 20
Oh, sheets.
of folks who are like,
Should have thought
I
about that
got
more.
nothing.
Yeah, I got nothing. I'm happy to be asked anything. Maybe that's it. There's no secret hidden anything about me. I'm very much an open book, so to speak. I'm very transparent that way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no, I'm good. No, I got nothing.
That means I punish you with this question. So, my goodness, so if your
Okay.
wonderful book, The Olympus Project, if that book were a food, what would it be and why?
Oh, that is a punishing question. If the Olympus Project was a food, what would it be and why? I reckon it would be avocado on toast. And I'd say avocado on toast because avocado is rich and creamy and full of good stuff for you. So it feels naughty, but it's actually really good for you. And toast, because who doesn't love a bit of toast? It's very comforting. So a comforting, rich, good for you snack. That's what it would be.
There you go, the avocado. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. The pits is in the middle for a reason. That's right, indeed. You're gonna have a pit in your stomach. It's like, oh no, it's over. Oh wait, there's a sequel. Hooray.
Yep.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Well, two more questions. I'll let you make a run for it. So the first one, I usually like to ask entrepreneurs since setbacks are part of the job. So my goodness, what would you consider your biggest setback? And heck, it doesn't even have to be in business. It could be in life. What would you consider your biggest setback that actually sets you up for success?
It was my cancer experience for sure. I mean, that was a major life and business interrupter. And it set me up for success because through that whole experience, which was devastating, it forced me or allowed me or gave me permission, or all three, to really re-examine my life and my purpose, what was important to me and how I wanted to show up in the world. And I don't always remember those lessons all the time. Sometimes they slip away and I fall back into old patterns of worrying or whatever. And I have to remember, like, I almost died. Hello. What are you worrying about this for? So that one definitely set me up for success in that way, because it's always a good benchmark. Whenever I think something is really horrible and horrendous, like, no, things could be a whole lot worse. And this is actually, this is, this is fine. So it helped me reevaluate risk, reevaluate failure, so to speak. And it's a lesson I have to keep reminding myself of, but definitely that one. That was definitely a winner for me.
Ah, a winner indeed. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Woohoo! Gotta love it when you learn lessons. That's right, indeed. They go in books, folks to devour later. That's right, indeed. Put in their brain. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. They get that Zoe experience. My goodness, my goodness. Well, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is if you know, wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but you're still in the current year. What advice would you give to yourself?
What advice would I give to myself? So I'm 25, but in 2023.
Yep, your husband be a
Mhm.
cradle robber.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Hmm. I'd say stay curious and play lightly. Yeah. Things don't have to be so serious. And I think that's part of the life lesson I had through cancer is to stay curious has always served me well. That's part of the learning ethos that I mentioned previously. I love learning and being curious about people and the world. And when you're curious, you stay humble. And that stays you that being humble keeps you out of a whole bunch of trouble. So curiosity leads to humility, which is helpful. And then the compassion piece, curiosity, humility, and compassion are three central tenets to good leadership and good life living, I think. So 25-year-old Zoe, I'd say, yep, stay curious, play lightly is about enjoying the journey so much more. You know, if you could look at the world, put on different pairs of glasses, put on the fun, beautiful, grateful glasses more often than the worry, stressed out sunnies that are screening out so much of the world. So yeah, stay curious, play lightly.
Woohoo! Play as lightly as a feather. That's right, maybe even a half a feather. Stay even lighter. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Then imagine yourself as a giant, fluffy cloud with a big old smiling face emoji, just floating. Like, yeah, that's right, indeed. Playing lightly. That's right, indeed. Keeping the babies blue. That's right, indeed. The color that is, not the actual babies being blue. They don't need to be blue for
You don't do blue babies. Oh, that's a horrible image. Oh my God. Unless they're Smurf babies, then that's cute.
There you go.
Smurfy babies on clouds. We'll go with that.
Yeah. Or the Blue Man Group as babies.
Oh yeah, that would be really fun.
Yeah, that's right indeed. That's right indeed. Sir, that right, folks. Zoe's got a Smurf fit lying around somewhere, waiting to spread the joy of blue, the good blue. That's right indeed. But before a random mushroom appears with a penguin eating it, folks need to keep up with all the stuff that you're doing, especially when you got your prequel and a sequel coming out indeed. So my goodness. So for those who need to keep up with Zoe and all the good old stuff you're putting out into the wonderful planet, what's the best way for folks to do so?
Oh, you can come visit me in the internet planets of Planet Zoe on zoerouth.com. That's ROUTH, ZOEROUTH.com. And from there, you can see a whole bunch of stuff. I'm on all the social media platforms, including the latest one, Threads, LinkedIn, and Twitter, previously known as Twitter, X, Threads, Insta, the whole bit. So, yep. And I should also say that Terra Blanca, the prequel, is coming out shortly, and we're making that available for free as ebook and also audiobook on the site. So if you go to zoerouth.com and click on books, you'll find the bookish e-journal. You sign up there and you'll get Terra Blanca in audio and or ebook form when it comes out in a month or so.
Woohoo! Where you heard it from the queen of planet Zoe herself, y'all. That's right indeed. Hop over to her part of the internet solar system. That's right indeed. Our wonderful website. That's right indeed. And check out all of our wonderful wares, snacks, some copies of our magical books. That's right indeed. You get to get your leadership, personal development on in more ways than one, whether it's through novel form or heck through nonfiction, strictly business, clear eyes, Ben Stein style. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. Even though her stuff is far more exciting. Far more exciting indeed. Be sure to check out our podcast and subscribe to it as well, because there's good stuff putting out for good people that is listening right now. That's right indeed. That's right indeed. So my goodness, so before we close up shop, any parting words, Zoe?
Be kind to yourself and others.
If you're hearing this part of the episode, that means you're one cool individual. Thanks a bunch for tuning in, and if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to share it with at least one other person in your network. Bonus points for 3. And be sure to check out the backlog too while you're at it, because there are hundreds of wonderful episodes to choose from as well.